Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy. We walked around for 35 minutes just in the parking lot looking for this car.
The passion.
UVM schedules the way they do to get as high a seed as possible in the NCAA tournament and to get as much tournament prep as they can because they're not going to get it from their league.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
The organization should be taking care of Matt rather than Matt taking care of the organization.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show on a Wednesday here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Full show today, all 90 minutes. Then we kick it over to Jazz with George Thomas. We'll get Caron of NESN with us here in about 15 minutes. You'll hear a bit from Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio today. UVM women's basketball preseason poll was announced for the America East. We'll tell you where they fell. Men's poll comes out tomorrow. We'll have some more information on that at that time. You can get in, as always, on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026 at your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You can also watch the show live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, my Twitter account. We do it that way every day.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts in the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. The NLCS began last night, and the Phillies beat the Padres by a score of 2-0. Game 2 is going on right now. It started maybe 45 minutes ago. The Phillies have a 4-2 lead. We're in the top of the third, so high-scoring affair compared to last night, but the Phillies lead it 4-2. They already have a game in hand on the road. And I was thinking about this last night, and I doubly feel it this morning when I woke up. From a Red Sox fan perspective, like we all know, every Red Sox fan is rooting against the Yankees. But as far as who you should be rooting for to win the World Series, I'm telling you, as a Red Sox fan, you should be rooting very, very hard for the Phillies. That's the answer. If you're a Red Sox fan trying to figure out who you should get behind and who you should care about and which team you should attach to, the answer is 1,000% the Philadelphia Phillies. Because if the Phillies follow through and if they win the World Series, my hope is that they'll then back off the Xander Bogaerts bidding this offseason. That's right. If the Phillies win the World Series, it is my hope and my goal that they will back off the Xander Bogaerts sweepstakes. You look around baseball, Xander Bogaerts is going to have suitors other than the Red Sox, right? My Mariners could use a bat in the infield. We hear the Dodgers, the Braves, the Twins. They're all possibly losing their shortstops. So a bunch of teams are going to be looking at Bogey. If you want to keep the Phillies and Dave Dombrowski out of the conversation, the best way to do that is probably just have them win the World Series now. So you should be thrilled they won last night 2-0. You should be thrilled they're up right now 4-2. You should root for them to boat race San Diego the rest of this series, get rested, and then beat whoever comes out of the American League. Because the Phillies are a huge threat to your desire and my desire for Xander Bogaerts to be back in a Red Sox uniform next year. Look at what the Phillies have done the last few years. They've spent huge, and they've spent big everywhere and almost in every offseason. They spent big on Zach Wheeler on the mound. They spent big on Bryce Harper. They spent big on Kyle Schwarber. They spent big on Nick Castellanos. They acquired a big contract in Gene Segura. They spent big on JT Realmuto. They have spent a ton of money. It is my hope that if the Phillies win the World Series, ownership goes to Dave Dombrowski and says, hey, we accomplished the goal, now cool it. We have done what we're supposed to. Let's sit this one out. But my fear is that if the Phillies come up just short, if they get beat in 7 in the NLCS, if they get beat in 6 in the World Series, if they come up just short, my fear is that Dave Dombrowski is going to get even more aggressive at adding those missing pieces. If Dave Dombrowski thinks the Phillies are just that one piece away from winning the World Series, that would be what terrifies me, is him going to Bogarts, who he already has a relationship, going to him and saying, hey, Xander, we're right on the edge. We need you to push us over. Hey, Xander, we're closer to winning again than the Red Sox are. We need you. And for someone who didn't get enough love with the Red Sox this year and by the Red Sox this year, I fear Dave Dombrowski swooping in and showing him that love. So if you are a Red Sox fan like me, you should just hope and pray that the Philadelphia Phillies win the World Series now and ownership just says, hey, we did our job. Now let's sit back. Let's save some money. Let's recharge the batteries. Let's recharge the pocketbooks, and then we'll get back inside the game again next year. I want them nowhere near negotiations with Xander Bogaerts. Now, the Red Sox could halt all of this by not actually letting Bogaerts hit the market, but thus far, they have not done that. If Xander Bogaerts hits the market, you can trust that the big spender, Dave Dombrowski, is going to be involved. And that is something I don't want any part of. Dombrowski knows how the Red Sox operate. Dombrowski sees what happened with Bogaerts in Boston this year, and all it takes is him going to Xander and saying, hey, they didn't appreciate you enough. I'll appreciate you. We'll appreciate you. You won a World Series for them. And what did they really do for it? What did they really do for you? Come be our missing link. Come be our missing piece. They're playing with a bunch of kids over there now. They're talking about developing the farm. We've got grown men here. We've got Schwarber, who you've played with. We've got Hoskins. We've got Harper. We've got Nola. We've got Wheeler. We've got the pieces in place. We've got veterans. We need you to come fill it out. We need you to be the missing link. That is not at all what I want to happen, and I fear it is a very real possibility if the Phillies come up just short. Who's with me? 802-585-3026. Steve says, why wouldn't the Phillies want to try to repeat if they win? It's a good question. I just believe that organizations tend to, once they win and they've spent hugely, they tend to do the following. They tend to say, hey, we've bought a little bit of a grace period. We don't need to go out and do the crazy external things. What I do think teams do when they win the World Series, they take care of their own. That becomes the priority, okay? When you win the World Series, teams tend to take care of their own before they go out to the outside. And that's what I'm hoping the Phillies do. They tell Dombrowski, hey, we don't need to go spend $230 on the outside or $180 on the outside. Let's spend $85 to re-up this guy. Like, I'm looking at it now, and I'm looking at when guys become free agents. And, I mean, let's see. The Phillies, they're going to have, like, Rhys Hoskins is in the final year of his contract. If I'm reading this right, Rhys Hoskins is in the final year of his contract. If they win the World Series, oh, no, he's going to have 1 year left after this. Maybe they go and they re-up Hoskins. Maybe they give him a longer-term deal. Maybe they do that. Maybe they got, let's see. I'm looking. Zach Eflin, who's got a 1 year deal. Maybe they rearrange something with him. That's my hope. You look at the Red Sox with Dombrowski. They win in 2018. He didn't need to extend Chris Sale. He did. He didn't need to extend Chris Sale, and he did. That's what I'm hoping becomes the prerogative there. If the Phillies win it, of course they want to win. But do they really need to go out and spend $175 million on Xander Bogaerts? I wouldn't think so. Because their fans, even though they're crazy Philly fans, I think their fans say, we haven't won a World Series since 2008 or whatever it's been. We hadn't won a World Series in nearly 15 years. We won one. I'll let you sit out the market this year. But, hey, take care of our guys who we love, who are now heroes to us. That's what I'm hoping for. Again, that is how it went down for Dombrowski in Boston. Again, he didn't need to re-sign Sale. He did it anyways. He went out and gave Eovaldi a huge deal. Again, World Series hero. He gave Eovaldi 4 years, $68 million. When you win the World Series and everybody's like, these are our guys, these are our heroes, you tend to take care of them before you need to go out. But if you lose this thing by a game and it's right there on the edge for you, then Spender Dave is going to be in full force again, I fear. More text, Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury, text line 802-585-3026. Chale in Norwich. Brady, what do you think a deal for Bogaerts would actually look like with the Red Sox? Well, I'm going to maintain what I've said for weeks now. I think 5 years, $150 million, and some opt-outs being built into the contract, I think it makes perfect sense for everybody. 5 years only protects the Red Sox against having to give him 8 and seeing him break down. 5 years only gives Bogaerts a chance to hit the market one more time in his career, like JD Martinez. $150 million is more than Trevor Story got total. It's more than Trevor Story got annually. So you're showing him the proper respect there and paying him more than Story. And the opt-outs allow him to control his earnings, right? Like JD Martinez had opt-outs after he had a 5-year, $120 million deal. He had opt-outs after years 2, 3, and 4. He could have opted out and gone for a bigger payday. Xander Bogaerts will have that option too under my plan. If money becomes the biggest thing to him, and he says, hey, after year 2, I hit 324 and I hit 28 home runs and I brought in 99 runs and I'm 32 years old, I like the idea of getting one more really good 4 or 5 year deal, but better than what I have remaining with you. I think that works for everybody. 5 for 150 protects the Red Sox years wise. The opt-outs give Bogaerts a chance to control the money, and the money the Red Sox would give is better than Story got, which I think is very, very important. Lou in Montpelier. Didn't you just say something last week about maybe Bogaerts not wanting to test the water at all, though? Yes, Lou, that's a good point, and that's a good memory, and I'm glad you brought that up. So when Carlos Correa said he was going to opt out of his deal in Minnesota, I did say that. Like, you look around baseball, Trey Turner's going to be a free agent at shortstop. So is Correa. So is Dansby Swanson. That's 3 shortstops, all younger than Bogaerts. My hope is that Bogaerts doesn't really want to be involved in a market where they're involved. All 3 of those guys could very well be in higher demand, right? They're all younger. They're all coming off excellent years. And I don't get Bogaerts as the guy who wants to sit and wait, right? Like, the market is going to make moves on them first, and Bogaerts is going to be left waiting. I don't think Bogaerts is that guy. So my goal is that Bogaerts just goes to the Red Sox and says, look, man, I don't need to be out in the market with those guys. Let them get theirs. You just take care of me. What can we do? That's my goal. But my fear is that, well, everybody's fixated on Swanson and Turner and Correa. Dave Dombrowski comes in and says, hey, I know you. I like you. We've won together. Let's dance. That's my fear. And that's what I don't want to happen. So one more text before we get to TC here in a moment. In a moment. Texter says, I agree with what you are saying. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I'm going to ask Tom Caron, the voice of the Red Sox on NESN. I'm going to ask him all this stuff here in a second. So TC's calling in. We'll get to him right after this.
Looking for the latest information on the Red Sox?
Not only is David Ortiz a Hall of Famer, but he is one of the best of the best.
How about the Bruins?
Are they a Stanley Cup champion? Probably not as presently constructed, but they're a playoff team.
And you've come to the right place. We talk now with NESN insider Tom Caron
Baseball isn't boring because there's still nothing like the communal gathering of fans at a baseball game.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yes, Tom Caron is called in. He's on the phone line with us now. And TC is joining us from the road today. So, TC, where exactly are we talking to you from?
Driving back from another college soccer game. So we are once again hostages of I-90.
and what a beautiful stretch of road it is.
Yeah, I've gotten a little too much time at the Erie Canal for one fall, but the boys are playing well, team's doing well, and coming off a win against Utica, and we move on. So there you go.
Well, good. Glad to hear that. Hey, I want to just go back to the conversation I was just having. And I have decided from a Red Sox perspective, I am rooting for the Phillies to win the World Series. And this is because I'm hoping if the Phillies win the World Series, then ownership will just go to Dave Dombrowski and say, hey, we accomplished the goal. We don't need to go out and spend any more this offseason. My fear is that if they come up just short, Dave Dombrowski is going to go shower Xander Bogaerts with the love he did not get from the Red Sox and try to make him an offer he can't refuse. Is my logic sound or a little flawed in your estimation?
No, I think it's sound. I'm not sure that he will call off the horses if they win the World Series, but I certainly think if they don't, you make a great point that he's going to go all in. He's the guy I've been worried about when it comes to Bogaerts to begin with. Dave Dombrowski is the one guy who put his arm around and can say, listen, I know exactly how you're feeling. I had my problems with that group. They dumped me to come on, look what we're doing down in Philadelphia. We've been mashing. We got Kyle Schwarber, who you loved last year, and he didn't work out with the Red Sox. So I just think there's a lot of motivation for Dave Dombrowski to go take Xander Bogaerts away from Boston. And with his own experience in Boston, Schwarber's experience in Boston, he would make a real compelling case as to why Philadelphia would be a good landing spot.
The other thing I wonder, kind of on the other side, which actually I think plays into the Red Sox favor here, is that, so we just heard last week that Carlos Correa is going to opt out. So the shortstop market is once again loaded, right? Correa is there, Trey Turner's there, Dansby Swanson is there. They're all younger than Bogaerts. Maybe Bogaerts doesn't really want to be in a competition with those guys, and maybe that drives him back to Boston to say, you know what, I just don't want to deal with the hassle.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think the way to do that is what I've been saying all along. Get this done now. Make him the offer you think he wants before he opts out. Don't let him hear the other offers. It's always been the simplest solution of this entire thing. It's also the most expensive. I understand. It's not my money. But if you're going to spend the money, and you really do want Xander Bogaerts, which is what ownership and management has been saying all along, then spend the money right now and don't let it become a bidding war. Probably have to overpay to keep him from the market, but you're going to have to overpay once he hits the market. Just get it done.
You know, the qualifying offer number came out last week. I think it's like just over $19 million. I've just assumed that both JD Martinez and Nathan Eovaldi were going to be gone this offseason. Martinez, I think, more likely to be gone than Eovaldi. Could you see them using the qualifying offer 1 year, $19 million on either of those players?
I could see them doing it on Eovaldi. I wouldn't do it on either. The injury. I think if you're going to sign him back for less than that. And I love Nathan Eovaldi, but I don't know there's going to be a huge market for a guy who's been dealing with injuries the way he has. Bring him back if you can. I don't know that 19 point whatever is a year deal, right? You're bringing him back without any long-term commitment. JD Martinez, for me, and I'm not ready to say JD Martinez is done. He has absolutely come back before. We know the story, released by the Astros. There could be another reinvention in there. That said, you just don't need to tie up that money in the designated hitter spot anymore, in my opinion. Use that DH spot as a chance to get Christian Arroyo a little more time, to get Trevor Story off his feet once in a while and just be a DH. Rotate that through Bogaerts and Devers and Story, get Arroyo in there a little bit. Whatever first baseman is out there along with Casas, let one of the first basemen get in there. Give me 30, 40 games of DH. You save a little wear and tear. And I think you've got enough offense to carry the position. I think you're better off saving that money and spending it elsewhere.
Tom Caron, Red Sox Bruins insider at NESN, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show at WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I'm probably going to get into this more tomorrow, but I want your initial thought on it. So I'm a huge fan of the 1 year pillow contract. I'm sure you are too. That's why I've mentioned constantly Michael Conforto as being a Red Sox target. What do you think of targeting a guy who has 1 year left on his deal but has fallen out of favor in his previous place? And I'm pointing at my Mariners and I'm pointing at Jesse Winker, because there was some pretty damning stuff that came out yesterday from Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times that said that by the end of the year, Winker's act had grown tired with the team and he wasn't working as hard as the other guys and he wasn't trying to improve his defense and he didn't play very well. But he's got 1 year left on his deal. He's making $8 million next year and he's got a proven track record, especially against right-handers. Is that a guy you'd be interested in, even considering what you're hearing in Seattle wasn't particularly good?
Yeah, what I'm hearing worries me a little bit. And one thing Alex Cora has done, I think, is created a pretty good clubhouse culture. You've got to make sure the guy can fit, because as we know, Seattle is in Boston. Things get magnified in Boston. Things get, blown into even a more dramatic realms than they do in smaller markets. And I'd be worried about a guy like that. The whole idea of the 1 year left, that makes sense to me. That's the kind of deal that I think Chaim Bloom has, jumped in on, where you grab somebody else's position. But there've been financial issues in the past. Not really a clubhouse makeup type of situation. So I'd be a little worried after a really disappointing year last year, where you got a lot of guys who are kind of battered and bruised and psychologically damaged a little bit from a rough year in Boston. You got to build that clubhouse up and make it an even more harmonious place, I think, for 2023.
What do you think of the ALCS? Obviously, from a Red Sox perspective, it's a Red Sox fan perspective, it's not a particularly fun ALCS, but it should be entertaining. What do you make of Yankees-Astros?
Well, I think it plays up. It sets up for the Astros beautifully. They're rested. They got their starters. They're home. They've been sitting around. The only worry is they play how many games in 14 days? 4 games in 14 days, whatever it is. One of them was 18 innings. But they haven't played a whole lot of baseball. The Yankees have. They had about a half hour champagne and beer celebration. Then they cleaned up, showered, got on the plane, and got into Houston early this morning. So I don't know. I just think it's tough to roll right into that without a day off. Without, Garrett Cole has been everything. There's no more complaining about Garrett Cole if you're a Yankees fan. He's been their guy. He's done the job. But you're not going to see him until Game 3. You may not see him again until Game 7. Cortez isn't going to be ready for the first couple of games, obviously. So I just don't know how their pitching is going to keep Houston in check. The power plays, right? We saw it last night. That Stanton home run certainly changed everything in that game. And then Judge tacks on a shot. Those two guys swinging like that, they can change the tenor of a game. But I will look back. I was thinking about 2003. The Red Sox had to go out to Oakland Game 5 of the ALDS. If you remember that, Derek Lowe closed it out. They got the win. There were no day off between 4 and 5. Now, they had a day off before the Yankees series that ultimately won 7 games, as we know, the Aaron Boone. But Game 1, when I would have bet the house that the Yankees would win that game rested and ready to go, Tim Wakefield actually took care of business. The Red Sox won Game 1. It's Game 2 that I remember the Red Sox being toast. And so the Yankees, I don't know. You ride the adrenaline. I don't know that they show any signs of wear and tear tonight. But I think starting tomorrow is when you'll see the difference. And I just think the Astros are too good, too deep, too rested, and too ready to go.
Let's move over to the Bruins. I got to tell you, it had been a great start to the season. I did not have 7 goals allowed to winless Ottawa on my Bruins bingo card for last night.
Yeah, you like pond hockey? I mean, that was, that's why I built a backyard rink for 13 years. So my kids could just skate up and down with no lines and nobody worried about offside. It's funny. Those games are kind of entertaining as a fan, right? Especially you're down 3-0, you tie it up, you cut it to 6-5. You're going in the final 20 minutes in a 1-goal game, which is crazy. But it will drive coaches nuts. I mean, they just nobody in uniform to revolve a game like that. So it was. I don't know. It came out of nowhere, that's for sure. I do love the offense. They're scoring lots of goals, 5 different guys. But they're going to have to shore up that defense because they left Swayman out to dry, and then Swayman said, "I'll make it up to them." I left them out to dry, so everybody was scratching their head. But other than the forwards, nobody played much.
And they have played well overall, though. I mean, really, I thought the Bruins were just supposed to be treading water until like December when everybody came back, and to start out 3-0 is a pretty good accomplishment given that my expectations were relatively low for the early part of the season.
Yeah, and what I really like about it is the secondary scoring, right? Polito's already matched how many goals he scored last year. A.J. Greer, looking like he did in the BU uniform back in the day, and the big goal last night tied the game to 3. And then Jake DeBrusk came back earlier than any of expected, celebrated his birthday with a big night. And I'm watching the dressing room interviews with him after the game, and he's smiling and looking, and like, where was that guy this time a year ago? I think it was Billy Jaffe in our postgame show had a great line. He said, if you'd have showed us a year ago, this is what he'll look like in a year, you would have absolutely assumed he was playing for another team because he wanted out of here so bad. But now they're sticking him as the top 6 forward. He's responding. I'm with you. I really like what I've seen from them so far. Allmark's been really good in net. I'm a Swayman guy, but you got to give Allmark the nod right now after what you saw from Swayman last night. Their defense, I said all along, to me, it's the injured defenseman more than it is Marchand, and that they're going to need back and get going. Marchand looks like he's ahead of schedule, still not cleared, but said he felt good. Not a lot of contact yet, though he does tend to create his own contact in practice, even if he's not cleared for contact. But I'm with you. They're a pleasant surprise, and if they can play well, I told you, if they can play well for 2 months, they get reloaded, and if they can stay healthy after that, they're going to be a good team.
Tom Caron, Red Sox and Bruins insider over at NESN, calling us from the beautiful road that is I-90. I'll tell you, next time you go out there, it might be a little further than you are supposed to travel, but I'm telling you, exit 34A, Oswego Sub Shop, and a beer at Gibby O'Connor's Irish Pub. You will not regret taking the few extra miles.
All right, I will add it to the list because I feel like I've had a beer at every other exit over the course of this month, so we'll add it to the list. On the Brewery District in Utica last night, but this weekend's we got an easy one. It's only 3 hours down to Poughkeepsie. You got any tips in Poughkeepsie? Let me know.
I'll work
with Poughkeepsie.
I will work my New Pulse sources and see what I can come up with on the way. TC, appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Tom Caron, Red Sox and Bruins insider at NESN. Good stuff with TC as always. I want to explore the idea about Jesse Winker a little more tomorrow because TC brings up some really good points about that as well. I think I'm also leery of it given what TC said. He is right that Boston is much different than Seattle. If Winker couldn't do it in Seattle, could he do it in Boston? But I am willing to have the conversation, think about it a little more overnight. TC also thinks I'm dead on about Bogarts, the Phillies, and Dombrowski. Like, just let Philly win the World Series now and hope that they don't go after Bogarts. Again, they could. TC is like, I'm not sure he'll call off the Dogs even if they win it, but I promise you, they get a better chance of calling off the Bogarts Dogs if they win it than if they don't. That's for sure. He even said Dombrowski is my biggest fear in all of this. Dave Dombrowski is my biggest fear in all of this, that he goes in, showers Bogarts with praise while skewering the Red Sox in the process. That is a real concern. You should just be rooting for the Phillies to win the whole damn thing. That's what I think. Interesting stuff on Evaldi and the qualifying offer. We'll have time, certainly all off season, to get into that. But yeah, Bruins laid an egg last night. It is a 3-1 start. Look, they were just supposed to be treading water here for the first couple of months, so I can't be too upset overall. But yes, 7 goals allowed yesterday to winless Ottawa. Not a particularly good Tuesday. Scott in South Hero is mocking us all on the text line, rooting for the Yankees. I'll root for the Yankees too in this series, to be perfectly honest with you. I hate the Astros so much because of the Mariners. I will root for the Yankees to win this series, and then I will root for the Phillies to beat them in the World Series. And I could not think of a more obnoxious matchup fan-wise than Philly and New York, unless it was New York and New York. But, there you go. I'll root for the Yankees in this series, let them beat the Astros, and then let them get blitzed by Philly. How about that? It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV. The full interview with Tom Caron will soon be available on our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Here's a question. Patriots have 2 quarterbacks now. Would you be willing to trade one of them? We'll talk about that next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Berry, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. President Biden says he's tapping oil reserves to keep gas prices steady. Here's CBS's Stephen Portnoy.
The president says his administration will replenish the Strategic Petroleum Reserve when oil prices dip to around $70 a barrel, and it'll pump more out of the reserve if necessary.
We're calling it a ready and release plan.
He says the reserve is currently more than half full, which he insists is enough for any emergency. And he pushes back on GOP criticism that today's announcement was politically motivated.
Look, it makes sense. I've been doing this for how long now?
Mr. Biden's move today ends the 180 million barrel drawdown he began last spring. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
Former President Trump sat down for a deposition today in a defamation lawsuit filed by writer E. Jean Carroll. She claims Trump raped her in the mid-90s in a department store dressing room in New York. Mr. Trump has denied the claim, but last week, a federal judge cleared the way for his testimony, saying the former president has already delayed the case and shouldn't be able to run out the clock. Russian President Vladimir Putin says 4 annexed regions in Ukraine are now under martial law. CBS's Maria Lushnia has more on what that means.
Under Russian law, that allows the Russian military, law enforcement, a pretty wide set of possibilities. What they can do, they can seize civilian property, they can stop people for checks, they can limit their movement in however they want, they can introduce a curfew.
The move comes as the Kremlin loses ground in the war, but its attacks are escalating now with the use of suicide drones. Migrants have started arriving at a new shelter on Randall's Island in New York City, set up with hundreds of cots. WCBS reporter Sean Adams has details.
Caseworkers will help migrants figure out their next destination, their phones, Wi-Fi, a rec room with games. Families will get similar services at a midtown hotel. There's no limit to how long someone can stay here. The goal is 4 days to get settled.
More than 68 million Americans are feeling the freeze tonight, but down south, there's a bit of a split. CBS News meteorologist David Parkinson explains.
Unfortunately, it's one more cold night in the 30s and 20s for much of the southeast. That includes places like Jacksonville, Florida, getting down to 37, Asheville, North Carolina, down to 25.
But he says Texas could still see temps up to 90 degrees, which would be a record this time of year. Dessert just got a little dangerous. Nestle Toll House is recalling stuffed chocolate chip cookie dough with fudge filling. It could contain white plastic pieces, but so far, no one's gotten sick. The Dow lost 100 points today. The Nasdaq down 91 and the S&P slipped 24. This is CBS News.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
This is CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Getting good value for your hard-earned money is more important than ever. When you have aches and pains, good value means getting relief that lasts, like the relief you'll enjoy from Salonpause pain-relieving patches. People that use Salonpause reported less pain with improvement in mood, sleep, and the ability to work. Life is better without pain. You can live better. Salonpause. It's good medicine.
Finding the right Medicare plan? Oof, no easy feat. Kind of like those dances my granddaughter loves making me do. But then I found Walgreens Find Direct's coverage. Lets you compare plans online, over the phone, or in person. Made Medicare shopping so easy. Plus, I found plans with low-cost copays. I can get down with that. When you need to talk Medicare, Walgreens is here. Start shopping today at walgreens.com/Medicare.
New Orleans pastor has confessed to stealing nearly $1 million from his church. WWL's Dave Cohen has details.
Pastor Charles Southall III entered a guilty plea to using tithed donations from his congregation, funds for a charter school, and proceeds from low-income housing, all for his personal purposes, depositing hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time into his own bank account.
Lord, thank you for keeping me when I'm struggling.
Southall has been preaching at the First Emmanuel Baptist Church in New Orleans for more than 3 decades. At sentencing in January, he could be sent to federal prison for a decade. Dave Cohen for CBS News, New Orleans.
Ever wonder why some people are bitten by mosquitoes more than others? Well, according to scientists, humans smell good to them due to the chemicals on their skin. The worst part is there's nothing you can do about it because it's hard to change the level of chemicals that your body emits. Monica Ricks, CBS News.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
This is Field Yates of ESPN, and you're listening to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV Radio and the WDEV app.
Thank you very much, Field. Welcome back in. Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Again, the full show podcast always available, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. We do our best to have it up within an hour of the time we get off the air every day. All of our interviews are available there as well, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and again at WDEVradio.com. I have a question for the room. 802-585-3026. If you were the Patriots and you had a chance to trade Mac Jones or Bailey Zappe, would you do it? I don't mean today. I'll say this offseason. If this upcoming offseason you have the opportunity to trade Mac Jones or Bailey Zappe, would you do it? It's a very interesting question because I was listening to Trent Dilfer, the former NFL quarterback. He was on Fox Sports Radio the other day, and he just kind of made this comment in passing.
The Patriots have found 2 really good quarterbacks on the roster. And Bill, he's going to find a way to create value for both of them and end up getting draft picks out of this thing.
He's going to end up getting draft picks out of this thing. So again, would you trade either of Bailey Zappe or Mac Jones? Do you believe in Zappe fever so much that you'll move on from Mac? Or do you still think Mac is the guy and Zappe is just a nice story that you don't really need? 802-585-3026. I will tell you this piece of information and let it, help you in your decision making. Bailey Zappe and Mac Jones have the same amount of years left on their contract, right? When we go into next offseason, Mac Jones is going to have 3 years left. Bailey Zappe is going to have 3 years left. Now, Mac is more expensive than Zappe, but not by a lot. Mac will become more expensive in that third and final year, but largely they're both incredibly affordable, especially at the quarterback position. You get your answers in 802-585-3026. Text says, yes, trade. Which one? Who are you trading? Are you trading just whoever you can get the most for? Are you trading one specifically? Are you holding on to one specifically? Because I'll tell you that I believe I'd hold on to Mac Jones, but I would 100% in the offseason be willing to trade Bailey Zappe. 100%. I don't want to trade Mac. Now, yes, everybody has a price. So if you offer me like 3 first-round picks for Mac, then sure, I'd probably do it. But just looking at realistic offers and realistic possibilities, I'd be much, much more willing to move Zappe. I think Mac is good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's special, but I think he's good, and I think he's a known commodity to me. No, he'll never be worth $45 million, but it doesn't mean I can't do good things with him over the next few years. I would rather play with Mac long-term than play with Zappe. Zappe, to me, is a good player. He's a good player, but he's replaceable. The Patriots have shown the ability to build up serviceable quarterbacks. They've done it for the last decade, right? They build up Matt Castle. They build up Jimmy Garoppolo. They build up Jacoby Brissett. They build up Mac. They build up Zappe. Some of that was under Josh McDaniels, I understand, but Bill Belichick and the rest of the staff have a hand in that too. I think the Patriots can find another Bailey Zappe in the draft next year if they need to. If some team wants to come after Bailey Zappe because they think he's the next Kirk Cousins, a 4th rounder, who's going to end up starting for more than a decade, if they think that Bailey Zappe is that guy, then so be it. I'll take the risk. If you want to give me a third-round pick for Zappe, done. You want to give me a second-round pick? Where do I sign up? Probably wouldn't go any lower than a third, right? Like, if you go fourth or lower, Zappe probably is more worth it to me as a backup. But if you offer me a second or a third on the hope that Zappe is the next late-round pick to blossom, I'd move him. No questions asked. No questions asked. Zappe's fine. He's good. But I will make a bet that he is not the next Kirk Cousins. And I would rather have a second-round pick or a third-round pick. I do not think we have a Kirk Cousins, Robert Griffin III situation here where Washington moved on from a first-round pick and went to Cousins. I don't think we have that. And I'd be willing to get rid of Zappe on the belief that I can find another guy just like him. For all the talk about Bill not being able to develop players and draft and all that, he seems to do a pretty good job at identifying quarterbacks and having a staff in place to make them better. I trust that he can find the next Bailey Zappe. That I believe wholeheartedly. Mac, to me, is better. He'd be harder to replace. I mean, look at a guy. Look at Taylor Heineke. Okay, look at Taylor Heineke. Like, what has he really done for Washington? Remember, Taylor Heineke was a out-of-nowhere quarterback who came in and played well at the end of 2020, got Washington to the playoffs, almost beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. And Washington let him start last year in 2021. And guess what? He went 7-8, and they benched him this year for Carson Wentz. I would say Washington would have been better served just moving Heineke when his value was the highest after 2020. That's what I'm going to do with Bailey Zappe. Because if I start Bailey Zappe, I'm thinking he's doing the same thing that Heineke did, not getting to the playoffs as a full-year starter. Nice story, flash in the pan, guy who can help, good backup, guy you can play with for a couple of weeks. If you want him to be your starter, you can have him for a second or a third-round pick, no questions asked. Text says, you could trade Zappe. Great show. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, texter, for getting in. You can get in as well, 802-585-3026. I just move Zappe tomorrow. Mac, to me, has the higher ceiling, the same number of years left on contract. It's worth it to me to just ride with Mac. And that's what I'm going to do. Again, I don't think Mac's worth $50 million. I don't think he's going to be worth what Josh Allen got or Patrick Mahomes got or Russell Wilson got, Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to get paid. I don't think he should get paid like that. But for the next 3 years, I'd rather have him than Bailey Zappe. And if I can get a second or a third round pick from somebody who thinks that Zappe is their guy, then good luck. I will take the risk of being wrong on that one. If I'm Bill the GM, that's what I'm looking to do. I just don't think I'd be glad to keep both quarterbacks on my roster, right? You always need a good backup, but if you want to put, if you want to offer me a 5th round pick for Zappe, I'll keep him. He'll be my backup. But if you want to offer me a second, I'll find a new backup. That's for sure. But all of this, by the way, it leads to a rather interesting discussion. If you are Bailey Zappe in all of this, how do you feel? How do you feel if you're Zappe? Because I got to tell you, if I'm Zappe, come the offseason, I'd welcome a trade also. Not demanding it. I don't have enough clout in the league to demand a trade. I'm not veteran enough to demand a trade, but I'd absolutely welcome it in the offseason if I were Zappe. We have focused so much on how Mac feels and what Mac's emotions are. I want to look at the other side here because, right now, Bailey Zappe is saying and doing all the right things. You come in as a 4th-round pick. You aren't expecting to play. You get a chance. Bailey Zappe, of course, is truly about the team. I'm sure right now as a rookie, when he wasn't expecting to play, he's very much just happy to be on the field. But if and when Bailey Zappe loses his job back to Mac Jones, when he gets to the offseason and he really sits back, he's going to be upset and he's going to welcome a trade also. That's how I'd feel. Right now, yeah. I'm just thrilled to be playing. I'm thrilled to get on the field. But when I get into the offseason, you know what I'm thinking to myself in the offseason if I'm Zappe? Screw this. I got a taste of it. I did well on Sunday. I went into Lambeau and almost beat Aaron Rodgers on no real preparation. I went into Cleveland and won a tough place to play. I proved myself. If I'm Bailey Zappe in the offseason, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I did my job. I proved myself. I deserve a chance, and I would welcome a trade. If I'm Zappe, I'm looking at Mac's stats and saying, hey, this dude threw 5 picks in 3 games. I've thrown just 1 and 2.5, and that one wasn't even my fault because Nelson Aguilar can't catch. Like, if I'm Zappe, I look at it like I'm taking care of the football. I'm running the offense. I'm coachable. We win. I want a chance to play more. That's how I'd feel in the offseason if I were Zappe. Like, I personally, Brady Farkas thinks that Mac is better. But if I'm Zappe, of course I think I'm better. And I think I deserve a chance. And if you're not going to give it to me, then I'd be all for going somewhere else. Because we've seen the quarterback market, right? The quarterback market changes every year. Look at it this year. Cleveland traded for a quarterback. And Indy traded for a quarterback, and Washington traded for a quarterback, and Denver traded for a quarterback. Man, that's just 4. Like, there's got to be more that I could think of here. Oh, and Carolina traded for a quarterback. Like, that's 5 teams that traded for quarterbacks right off the top of my head. If I'm Zappe, like, there's going to be movement again next year. And if I'm Zappe, I'm thinking, hey, if one of you wants to give me an opportunity, I'd be glad to do it. Thank you, Bill, for drafting me. Thanks for giving me a chance. I'm ready to go play. Because once you've got that feeling, it's very hard to put it back in the box. Once you've got the feeling of being out on the field and being the guy and you've shown success, it's very difficult to just sit back and be okay with this. Like, is Bailey Zappe really going to be thrilled to sit behind Mac for the next 3 years? I wouldn't if I were him. So when the offseason comes, I'd be more than fine with being traded. Like, I look back at my own career. Okay, I look back at my own career. I was okay at the beginning, right? At the beginning of my career, I was okay being behind the scenes. Be a producer, press the buttons, run the board, book the guests, write for the website, do all that stuff. But the minute that I got a chance to go on the air, that's what I wanted to do. And my entire focus became, how can I get on the air? Can I fill in on someone's out? Can I fill in? Holiday? Can I work it? Saturday morning show? Can I do it? All I wanted was to be on the air, and I ultimately left because I was going to get an opportunity to be full-time and to get on the air every single day. That's why I left my first station. And that's where I think Bailey Zappe is going to be at. He's got the itch. Like, right now, today, it's about the team. He'll probably take a back seat and be okay with it when Matt comes back. He's a rookie. It's about the team. That's how you are when you're a rookie. But every competitor wants to win, and every competitor wants to play. And every competitor wants to be the reason that you're winning. And Bailey Zappe's going to get there too. And in the offseason, I'd be fine with being out. Like, I remember Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward got hurt with the Celtics, right? The huge injury. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals without him. Did they get to the Eastern Conference Finals? They won in the playoffs for sure without Hayward. And he said, like, it was hard to see them win without me. I want them to win, but I want to be a reason they're winning. Zappe, I think, is going to feel the exact same way. The exact same way. 802-585-3026. Texter says Denver traded for a quarterback. I said that. I said 5 teams traded for a quarterback. Denver's one of them. Carolina's one of them. Cleveland's one of them. You know, now I've lost the other 2 again off the top of my head. But Tex says, got to the Eastern Conference Finals without Hayward. Lost to the Cavs in 7. Cavs got swept by Golden State. Yeah, that feels right. That feels right. The first year with Kyrie, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, they lost to the Cavs. First year Kyrie was here. The next year Kyrie was here. The second year is the year that they got beaten the first round, I believe, by Milwaukee, and they played terrible. Or maybe it was the second round to Milwaukee. They've beaten Indiana. They played Indiana and Milwaukee a bunch in those years. But, yeah, I think that's right. Tex says, won't Belichick realize the opportunity this year? I don't believe that Belichick is going to trade Zappe or Mack this year. The trade deadline comes up just a few weeks from now. Teams don't know that they need quarterbacks yet, right? Like, there's a few, but those teams are probably waiting to see where they finish to see if they can go do it in the draft, right? Like, a team would rather have C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young than Bailey Zappe. So if you're Carolina, at this point, you're waiting to see, like, am I going to finish with the worst record in the league, get the number one pick, and then I'd rather go get Young or Stroud? Bailey Zappe is for a team that finishes picking, 17th, 15th, a team that's not in the, like my Seahawks. Okay? The Seahawks are probably the kind of team that would trade for Zappe. Right now, Geno Smith is their quarterback. They've already got 3 wins. They're not finishing as the worst team in the NFL. They're not. So if they finish between 10 and 20, they're not going to get the guy, then they may be likely to say, hey, Bill, here's a 3rd-round pick for Zappe. We'll just roll with him. Like, we'll get a young guy with 3 years left who we like, who, we don't have to draft in the first round, and we can go draft another guy in the first. That's the kind of team that would trade for Zappe, but I think it's more likely to come in the offseason. Bob says, play Zappe until he loses. If he doesn't lose, then trade Mack. I mean, it's a fair question as to when you let Mac Jones play again. And at this point, I think that Zappe has earned the right to, I think Zappe has delayed Mac coming back until he's fully healthy. That's what I think. Before I thought it was, okay, every game could be save your season. And if that's the case, then Mac can play at 75%. Like, they need him out there to save the season. They're 3-3. They got a very winnable game here against Chicago. If Mac's not 100%, then let him get to be 100%. Because the injury he had is a serious one and very possible or highly likely, I think, to re-aggravate. So if I can push off having him until he's 100%, I'll do that. Now, the Jets are coming up after Chicago. They're 4-2. They very well might be 5-2 if they beat Denver. They're not going to be the pushover that we thought. I would think you want Mac for that one, and you want him at 100%. So my gut tells me to start Zappe this week against Chicago, try to win a very winnable game at home on Monday night, and then let Mac really start to prepare for the Jets. Get that, the team will be on short rest, but get Mac a chance to be on, kind of early prep work on the Jets. That's what my gut tells me at this point. And Roger in Burlington says, so would you stick with Mac or Zappe? Yeah, again, like I just said. Zappe's bought enough time for the Pats to afford to let Mac get healthy, but I'd probably start Zappe this week, let Mac get to 100%. Rumor has it that Mac is at like 85, 90%. I want Mac back for the Jets game. And the other reason I want Mac back is I think this needs to go without saying. Bailey Zappe is getting a ton of help from the defense. And I don't begrudge him for that, but let's not act like Bailey Zappe is doing everything himself. I mean, I hope people recognize that. Against Green Bay, even in that game he lost, they had the help of the pick 6, right? Jack Jones gets a pick 6 before halftime. 7 points that Bailey Zappe does not have to score. Against Detroit, we get a strip sack fumble for a touchdown. That's 6 more points that Zappe doesn't have to get. His defense stops Detroit on 6 fourth down attempts? Like, it feels like Bailey Zappe is playing in a field of cotton candy right now. It's very, very easy and very, very comfortable for him to play. Again, I give him credit. I don't begrudge him for, what benefit he has, but he's getting a lot of help that doesn't feel repeatable. The Browns had 4 turnovers. Can you count on that kind of performance? Like, look at what those turnovers did for Zappe. He had 3 separate touchdown drives, 40 yards and under. One of them was 40, one of them was 19, and one of them was 8. I mean, it was cherry picking. I give him credit for the drive right before half and the drive right after the half. He scored touchdowns there. That's awesome. But by and large, Bailey Zappe has played from a huge position of strength, short fields, and has been very, very comfortable. I think Mac has the ability to play under a little bit more adverse situation. If Mac had what this defense has given Zappe, he'd be doing the exact same thing, except they'd be finishing in the red zone. That's for sure. 802-585-3026. In the NLCS, it is still 4-2 Phillies in the bottom of the 5th. The Padres have the leadoff man on and a 2-0 count on Trent Grisham as we kick towards the top of the order here. So let's get to who's saying what. Let's finish out our Patriots quarterback talk.
Whoa. What did he say?
They have an expensive but totally unimpressive receiving core, and they have absolute best, at most charitable, the 9th best quarterback in their own conference.
They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Texter says, I've been out of touch with all of this. Where is Brian Hoyer? He's on the injured reserve. He has a concussion. We don't know exactly how long he's going to be out. The IR means you're out at least 4 weeks. He's already served 2 of them, so Hoyer is out for at least the next 2 weeks. And we don't know how long a concussion obviously can linger, right? And I'm now no doctor, no scientist. I'm not going to speculate. I just know that he is out a mandatory 2 more weeks because of being put on injured reserve, which knocks you out for 4. Beyond that, not sure. Certainly not a guy who's going to get traded. I'm sure he'll be back with the team eventually and able to play if they need him to, but he's not really in a position to help right now. All right, who's saying what? It's brought to you by Vermont Laser Wash. It's Central Vermont's home of unlimited car washes. It begins at just $20 a month. So unlimited car wash is $20 a month. 1 free car wash. Just text the word Vermont to the number 30 and then 400. I want to put a bow on Patriots quarterback stuff for the day. Albert Breer of the Monday Morning Quarterback was talking the other day about how the relationship between Mac and the Patriots has gone sideways the last few months. Listen here.
And so I think a big part of it for him was, wait a second, why are you hiring a defensive coach as my offensive coordinator? Why are you hiring a special teams coach as my quarterbacks coach? Wait, why are we running a different offense now? Why are we doing things differently? I had a lot of success last year. Why aren't we building on what we did last year? Why, right? With all the change and everything else in New England, there was some natural friction there. And so that was the background.
So Breer says Mac was frustrated by all the change in New England and says that Mac is a big why guy. He wants to know what's going on. Also added that New England is not a big why place, so Mac wasn't really getting a whole lot of answers. I understand Mac's frustrations there. Part of me thinks like, hey, kid, just shut your mouth. You're a young guy. Just shut your mouth and run with it. But the majority of me thinks that I agree with Mac. Like, if I'm the quarterback, there's a ton of pressure on me. There's a ton of eyeballs on me. I've got to be the leader. I've got to be the CEO. I've got to be the face. I want to know what exactly I'm being the face of. I don't believe that Mac at his age and his experience should have unlimited power in the organization, but I do believe he should have the ability to ask questions and get real answers. I understand that because if you're Mac, you're kind of feeling like, hey, man, I'm supposed to be the leader here, but I don't have any insight as to what's going on, and I don't know why we're doing what you're doing. And I mean, I think it makes sense that he'd be feeling bothered by the idea that the structure around him is crumbling. And that's what it is, or that's what it was at the time, right? McDaniels is gone. I've lost other coaches to Vegas to go with McDaniels. I see Shaq Mason get traded. Okay, I'm seeing some things here that I'm not liking in the offseason. It's very obvious that Mac Jones thrives within structure. He thrives in getting answers, and I think he's very, very ABC cut and dry about things. And when he sees McDaniels get replaced by two obvious, by two non-obvious choices, I get his frustration. And then Breer went out and took it a step further and said that there's also an issue between Mac and the Patriots about the handling of his ankle.
No, vice versa. They wanted him to get the tightrope. Then this is initially after he first got hurt with a high ankle sprain. It was thought to be a pretty severe high ankle sprain. So he's seen guys go through this, and he thought, I'm going to be better off just rehabbing the injury. And there was some level of disagreement there. Now, because the high ankle sprain didn't wind up being quite as severe as initially thought, it wound up being less of an issue because now he's probably going to be able to get back within the time frame that the surgery would have put him back on the field. But there was some level of disagreement on that too.
I'm disappointed to hear that. Because it's Mac's medical right to do whatever he wants, right? Like the NFL couldn't force its players to get vaccinated. They can't force you into a surgery you don't want, right? If they can't force you into a vaccine you don't want, they can't force you into a surgery you don't want. And I understand the team is out for the team. The team isn't necessarily out for the player always, but I still don't like hearing that. Max never had a real injury, so I understand why he may be hesitant to go under the knife, right? That's not something that he's familiar with. It's not some guys get 30 surgeries in their career. Other guys, Max never had one, I bet, until this whole ordeal. He said he's never had an injury. He said he broke his arm when he was like 8 or something like that. So I get why he's hesitant about things, and I don't love the idea that the team was allegedly kind of pushing him into something that he wasn't really comfortable with. It'd be one thing if the surgery was going to take you from 12 weeks out to 4, but Max going to end up getting back in the same amount of time between having the surgery and not. So I know what teams are about. Teams are about them and teams are about the bottom line. I wish at times they were more about the players. Okay. I wish they were more about the players and looking out for what's best for the player and working with them rather than kind of against them. The Padres have cut this to 4-3 right now and have runners at first and third with just one out and Juan Soto at the plate, for those of you keeping track of the NLCS right now. So for those of us now who are rooting for the Phillies, we're disappointed to see all this. You know what didn't disappoint me? Celtics last night. They win their opener. We'll take you through their victory over the 76ers, and we'll check in with Freddie Coleman, our guy from ESPN Radio. That's next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
If a salesman walked through your neighborhood and promised you a cheap kitchen renovation, would you buy it? Of course not. You would do your homework, shop around, and come to the realization that a low price isn't always all it's cracked up to be. The same is true for solar. Hi, I'm Tara from Green Mountain Solar. With so many solar options to choose from, we want to make sure that you're making the decision that's right for you. With solar, you get what you pay for. If that low payment sounds too good to be true, it probably is. At Green Mountain Solar, we don't do hard sales or pricing games. We're simply here with quality products, professional installation, and a transparent process from beginning to the end. Plus, our local lending partner, VSECU, can help finance your project without hidden surprises. As your resilient energy consultants, we answer all your questions and even tell you if solar isn't right for you. Get started with a free site visit. Go to greenmtnsolar.com.
As Vermonters, we know that so much depends on the weather. When you need a reliable local weather forecast, it's literally at your fingertips with the WDEV weather phone. Locally dial 244-1172 or toll free at 1-800-585-1211. Roger Hill's weather forecast is just a phone call away on the WDEV weather phone, 244-1172 or 1-800-585-1211.
Dr. Travis Stork here to tell you about a great pain reliever called Salon Pas Pain Relieving Patches. Salon Pas is pain medicine in a patch. You stick it right on sore muscles for up to 8 hours. Clinical research has shown that people that used Salon Pas reported less pain with improvement in mood, sleep, and the ability to work. Safe, effective relief is one peel and place away. Salon Pas, it's good medicine.
I wanted to know why some people who get COVID-19 get it so bad. I found out it may be because they have a high risk factor, such as heart disease, diabetes, being overweight, smoking, and asthma. Even if symptoms feel mild, these factors can increase your risk of COVID-19 turning severe. So if you're at high risk and test positive, there are things you can do, like asking your healthcare provider if an authorized oral treatment is right for you. Learn about an option at treatcovid19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
Do you want to learn more about the free market perspective on important public policy issues affecting you, your work, and your community? I'm Bill Sayre, and I hope you'll do so by joining me in conversation with Vermont opinion leaders as we discuss how best to make Vermont an ever better and more affordable place to live and work. Common Sense Radio with Bill Sayre, weekdays 11 till noon.
This view was worth a hike.
Right? And it's a good way to stay on top of my health.
Yes, I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. Have you screened for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. It's more treatable when caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and it's used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you, or visit Cologuard.com.
I'm in.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Padres have tied the game at 4. Reminder, the Yankees are going to be starting here in the 7 o'clock hour against the Astros from Houston. Jamison Tyone against Justin Verlander in that one. The show is brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, where they're online at ProDriverCDL.com. That's ProDriverCDL.com. You can get your Class A, Class B, Class C, or your passenger and advanced skills training as well. So Celtics opening night last night, they beat the Sixers by 9, 126-117 to move out to a 1-0 start on the year. And the C's, look, they got out early. Philly came back. James Harden played pretty well at 30 plus last night. So then the Celtics came out after halftime and played a lot better, too. They allowed 63 points in the second half. They limited the Sixers in the second, and just played a lot better. They got 35 from Jaylen Brown, 35 from Jason Tatum. So kind of some quick facts on this one. We're going to hear from Freddie Coleman here momentarily, but some quick facts on this game. Brown and Tatum each had 35. Tatum was 13 of 20 from the floor. Brown was 14 of 24. So they both shot over 50%. That's great. Tatum wasn't great from 3, but overall, they both shot very well. And the Celtics also got double figures from 3 other players. Malcolm Brogdon had 16. Grant Williams had 15. Marcus Smart had 14. Getting 5 players in double figures is huge. Like when you look at the Lakers last night, they had 4 players in double figures, and they ended up losing. That 5th player, the ability to get you in the 120s, that makes a huge difference. Makes a huge, huge difference. And the Celtics have multiple guys that can be that guy, that can be a double-figure guy. We have to get it from Tatum and Brown. You have to get it from Brogdon. And then Al Horford can be that guy. Marcus Smart can be that guy. You could get it on any given night from Derek White. You could get it from Grant Williams. So they have probably 7 guys that can go for double figures in any given night. You get 5 of them in there, you're going to have a good chance at winning a lot of games. A lot of games. It was also very good to see Jason Tatum get to the bucket a little bit more last night. He took 9 free throws yesterday. Remember, All the talk last year, earlier in Tatum's career, he settles too much. He gets too jumper happy. Well, 9 free throws is a huge way to prove that you're working on getting to the bucket. Okay, getting really aggressive, going to the basket, not just settling for jumpers. That's a big-time development in Tatum's career, and that's something he's going to need to continue to do more of, right? He's going to need to continue to do more of it. And I always go after Celtics games to CelticsBlog.com, and I always kind of look up their thoughts on the game because I think they're really, really thorough and really, really good. And they actually picked up on a few things I didn't notice as much in real time. But there were even more good developments from Tatum's game, right? He got better with the floater. There was some better movement off the ball. He did some nice backdoor cuts. So, again, the fear with Tatum is sometimes he's going to hang around the perimeter and just kind of loaf and settle. Backdoor cuts, getting to the bucket, moving without the ball, that's all good. Those were all good developments. Celtics shot 34% from 3. You'd like to be better than that. It's not horrific, but you'd like to be better than that. What I love about the Celtics in the opener, they had only 10 turnovers compared to 24 assists. A 2.4 to 1 assist to turnover ratio is incredibly good. You look at Philly, and it was a lot more ISO play. Philly had just 16 assists yesterday. The Celtics had 24. Ball movement is a huge tenet of this Celtics offense, and it was good to see them employing that again last night. When the Celtics are great, they are whipping the ball around. And how many times yesterday did we see it where it goes around and it ends up with Grant Williams in the corner, 3. Al Horford in the corner, 3. Jason Tatum, top of the key, wide open, 3. You get the defense scrambling, you get the defense moving, and you create open shots. And when you can create open shots, NBA players are going to hit them. I think that was great. Celtics out-rebounded Philly, which is huge. Celtics didn't have Robert Williams. Like, rebounding is a huge concern for this team. You look how big Philly is, right? They've got Embiid, they've got Harris. Philly, PJ Tucker, they are a big and physical team. You didn't have Robert Williams, and you found a way to out-rebound them. Huge. I don't know that will be the case nightly. It's still a worry for this Celtics team, but it wasn't a worry last night. Fast break points. Celtics outscored Philly 24-2. 24-2 in fast break points. That obviously is a massive gap. Celtics got out and ran. That's what you want to see this team do. You want to see them run. You want to see them put the pressure on their opponents, use their athleticism. If they're going to play small without Williams, good to see them get up and down the floor and take advantage of it. And finally, after the game, I really liked what Malcolm Brogdon had to say. He said this about Joe Mazzulla.
Man, I think he's as even kill, but, very much demanding of us in the right way. I think he's found a balance. I've explained him as balance. I think he's found a balance with us, how to push us, how to motivate us, but also how to step back and let us play and not say too much. So, we'll definitely have ups and downs this year. Everybody loses games. Everybody goes through adversity, but I think we got the group and I think we got the coach that, can handle it.
I really like hearing that because I think it's really important to point out again just how big the relationship between Mazzulla and the players is going to be. Mazzulla and the veterans, because there's always a chance that with a young or inexperienced coach, the veterans are just going to try to take over and impose their will and their own thoughts. Like, hey, buddy, we've been here before. We'll take it from here. There's always that possibility. So to hear Brogdon, a veteran, talk about the balance that Mazzulla has and talk about how great he is, that's important. Okay? It's day one, and they won. I get it could change, but Mazzulla needs to have the respect of his team, and he has that thus far, and I think that is a very good start. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio, our guy Freddie and Fitzsimmons. His show is weeknights at 9 p.m. And Freddie and I talked earlier today. We talked for like 10 minutes. The full interview is already up on our podcast channel at Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. This is probably the best 4.5 of that. And I just started out by asking Freddie, hey, Freddie, what did you think of the Celtics last night?
I thought this is going to be the kind of team they're going to be, Brady, before Robert Williams gets back.
they're really going to be hell on wheels because they were determined to just outrun the Philadelphia 76ers. And they were surgical in the second half doing that, where they shot 55% from the floor in the first half and 59% from the floor in the second half. And they were everywhere defensively, just challenging shots, making things tough on Joel Embiid. And even though James Harden had an off-the-hook game, if that's the Celtics team you're going to see before or after Robert Williams gets back, all of a sudden that could be an even more lethal basketball team just getting out on the floor and running the basketball.
How big a difference can Malcolm Brogdon make for this team, you think?
It's just massive what he can do, Brady, because he's a Swiss Army knife at both ends of the floor, where in modern basketball, he can guard three positions, whether it's shooting guard, point guard, or small forward, but he can also be that point forward in your offense where Marcus Smart can play off the basketball a little bit. He's an underrated screener. They ran a lot of screens with him to free up Jason Tatum and also Jaylen Brown. They were able to get loose and get downhill against the opposing defense of Philadelphia. So when they were able to sign him in the offseason, I said, man, oh, man, that's going to be a guy that's going to make them so much better. And more importantly, Brady, so much more versatile at both ends of the floor. I've been a big fan of Malcolm Brogdon when he got the NBA out of Virginia. And he's in the right situation, being that kind of guy that the Celtics really need and can make a difference in the playoffs.
You know, this was put back into its box last night. But my biggest fear about the Celtics is that a young team, or not even a young team, a team that has tasted success and gotten so close to the finals, my biggest fear is them just kind of wishing away the regular season and waiting for the playoffs. Is that a fair concern?
No, here's why. Because the Celtics know after all they've gone through in the offseason, the last thing you want to say is, okay, we're going to be ready when the playoffs get started. They know what they went through last year in the regular season. Many people wondering if you had to split up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then all of a sudden they were the best team in the NBA after January 1st in the regular season. This is the kind of culture that they have in this basketball team, that they're not just going to wait until the postseason happens, then flick on that switch. You may be able to think about doing that if you're the Golden State Warriors or you're a team with LeBron James that's won a championship because you're used to doing it. But the Celtics, as they're constituted right now, they're not used to doing that. So you can't really take anything for granted, regular season, postseason, any season, when it comes to the Boston Celtics this year.
How about Joe Mazzulla? What do you make of what you've seen from him, what you've heard of him, just kind of his presence?
I'm not surprised that he's been able to kind of have everybody buy in, because Google his name and when he played at West Virginia, Brady, and this was a young man that is as tough as nails. And even Bob Huggins said, I didn't know if I was going to give this guy a scholarship, but after seeing him, I said, if I don't have him on my basketball team, I'll have to deal with this guy for the next 4 years when it comes to playing against my basketball team. So at 34 years of age, he has a great sense of understanding the game. He is very smart. He's very intelligent, but he's also a tough-minded guy, and he wants his back at all ends of the floor to reflect that mindset. But Ime Udoka wanted his team to be mentally and physically tough, and we saw that with the Celtics after they had a slow start. Joe Mazzulla is the same kind of guy, and that's why Ime Udoka brought him to be an assistant on the staff. So I guess I'm not surprised with what I saw last night, especially when he's been able to be that kind of presence, tough-minded, on up the basketball court in his 34 years of being on planet Earth.
You know, Stephen A. caught some flack in New England yesterday for what he said. He said that he thought the Celtics suspended Udoka, not fired him, because they didn't want him to wind up in Brooklyn with their rivals. And I got to tell you, I actually think he's very much onto something. I don't know that I necessarily think it's just restricted to Brooklyn, and I think it wouldn't have happened before the season because it was so close to the beginning of the season. But I definitely do think they want him just on ice so that he cannot come back and beat them this season somewhere. So I would say I'm about 90% in on what Stephen A. said yesterday. What'd you make of that?
Nothing is off the table, especially with this situation with the Boston Celtics and Ime Udoka and their futures together. If Stephen A. Smith put out something like that, then he knows something. He doesn't just go out there when it comes to NBA news and NBA nuggets and just put it out there just because he has heard something in his head or the voices in his head. That's not how he gets down. He is very, very dialed into so many different people in and around the NBA. So I'm going to believe that there's a little bit of truth to that, maybe more than a little bit of truth, because you're the Boston Celtics and things don't work out. Joe Mazzulla, you got Ime Udoka and coming back to your basketball team. But if things do work out, Joe Mazzulla, you want to move on Ime Udoka, don't think for 1 second the Brooklyn Nets that if things don't work well with Steve Nash, they'll move on from him and bring back Ime Udoka, who's a valued assistant with this basketball team. And you know that's going to go a long way with making sure that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving don't want to go anywhere else, especially in the case of Kyrie Irving.
That was the best 5 minutes today with Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio. Love talking to Freddie. A lot of great stuff there. Probably going to react to even more of it tomorrow. Some of his stuff about the Celtics and not looking ahead to the playoffs. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was important. The Padres are now rolling in the NLCS. They have I had the game on mute and the score bug is kind of hidden. It's at least 7-4. It may be 8-4, still batting here in the bottom of the fifth inning. So Brandon Drury just had a 2-run single to make it 6-4. And then Josh Bell had a double down the line. I believe it's 7-4, but that's where, yes, 7-4 is where we're at here in the fifth inning. So I remember what it was like to follow baseball. When the Red Sox and the Mariners were playing, it was a lot more fun than this. But hey, it's 7-4 Padres and pitching change coming here in the bottom of the fifth. We'll wrap up the show next with a bit of local college basketball news. UVM women picked in the top third of the America East preseason poll. We'll tell you exactly where they are next on DEV.
Hi, my name is Ashley LaFeria, and I'm a registered nurse and public clinic coordinator at Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice. Getting your flu vaccine this year is important. It reduces the likelihood that you will get sick with the flu, and it lowers the impact of respiratory illness in our community. It is one important step that you can take to protect yourself and those at high risk. CVHHH is offering 10 public flu clinics at convenient locations in Central Vermont, starting September 26th in Waterbury. Attendees should wear a mask, and we will practice social distancing and sanitize between every client. Flu vaccines are distributed by a registered nurse on a first-come, first-served basis. You must be 18 years or older.
CVHHH is offering public flu clinics. To find the clinic nearest you, visit cvhhh.org for the schedule or call the flu hotline at 802-224-2299 for more information.
Hi, folks. Dan King here at Lamoille Valley Ford with a special announcement. The fall foliage blowout sale is on at Lamoille Valley Ford. Business is off the charts here at Lamoille Valley, and with tons of inventory in stock and on the way, we're on a mission to move out the 22s. Right, kids?
Spot on, Dan. Despite what you're seeing and hearing out there, I want you to know that at Lamoille Valley Ford, not only is our lot loaded with Ford Escapes, Bronco Sports, Edges, Explorers, and hands down the largest inventory of Ford trucks in Vermont, we also have over 300 new Fords in the pipeline. And because of that huge inventory, we've now taken in dozens of clean, one-owner, late-model cars, trucks, and SUVs, and they're available for immediate delivery. More importantly, we're ready to make deals and earn your business today. So listen to this offer just in time for winter driving. Come make your best deal on any in-stock, new or pre-owned SUV, and Lamoille Valley Ford will include 4 snow tires for just $1. Woo!
So drive routes 14, 15, or 16 to Hardwick and save big during the fall foliage blowout sale happening now at Lamoille Valley Ford.
The world is a constantly changing place, and being informed has never been more important. This is Steve Kathan. WDEV, Vermont's news station, and CBS provide you with up-to-the-minute news and information. Whether it's top and bottom of the hour news, breaking news, or special events, if Vermonters need to know, you can trust that WDEV and CBS will inform you. WDEV, keeping an eye on Vermont, while CBS keeps an eye on the world.
Moonlight Magic, powered by VSECU, takes over downtown Montpelier on Friday, October 21st. Enjoy amazing deals all day, extended shopping hours until 9 p.m., and amazing street performances from 5 to 9 p.m. You'll find all sorts of different entertainment, from African drumming, fire and music, to poetry and yo-yos.
Splash Naturals is offering 20% off store-wide for 3 days, including their fabulous skincare and makeup lines, such as Bare Minerals, Jane Iredale, and Dr. Hauschka. Splash is bubbling over with fresh new fall fashions, in addition to all natural products from around the world. You are naturally worth it. Come celebrate Moonlight Magic by kicking off Onion River Outdoors preseason ski and snowshoe sale starting Friday, October 21st through Sunday the 23rd. Get up to 20% off winter gear, including skis, boots, snowshoes, traction, and cozy apparel, like hats, gloves, and outerwear. Some exclusions apply.
Moonlight Magic, Friday, October 21st from 5 to 9 p.m. See you there.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, finishing it up quickly here. Only about 2 minutes left on the Brady Farkas show, but tell you real quick that tomorrow is UVM Men's Basketball Media Day. I'm going to be attending the virtual session, so I'll get a chance to talk to John Becker. We won't have an interview on the show, but I'll have some questions for him and kind of tell you what he had to say and my impressions of the team from his vantage point and all that. Today was Women's Basketball Media Day, and we found out that the UVM women were picked third in the preseason poll in the America East. That's huge. Absolutely huge. They also got a first place vote for the first time, I think, in the whole time I've ever been here. So Albany was first, Maine was second. UVM, remember, is coming off a 20-11 season a year ago, and that was our first 20-win season in more than a decade. And they also got two players in the preseason all-conference team, senior co-captain Emma Utterback, junior Anna Olsen. They're on the all-conference team. Both players had good years last year. Utterbeck last year was a first-team all-conference player, had 13.5 points a game. Olsen was on the second team at 12 points a game. Had a great freshman year, too, in that COVID year. So a lot of good stuff there. UVM women are going to open up their season against St. Mike's with a scrimmage. That is going to be November 4th, but they get it going for good November 8th at Indiana, and then travel to at Miami of Ohio. So, again, Men's Basketball Media Day is tomorrow. We'll have some thoughts on that after I check in with Coach Becker. Go download the full show podcast once again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. We'll hear from Buster Olney tomorrow about the playoffs. Padres are rolling. Yankees and Astros to come up a little while from now. We'll talk with Buster all about it at 5:45. Brady Farkas Show out. Jazz with George Thomas in. That's next on DEV, AM, and FM.
Red Cedar and Hemlock clapboards are available.